And like he was, I was a grade 7 dropout, dropped into university, and decided I wanted to do physics sort of halfway through, starting from computer science. And he kind of picked me out after midterms and was like, hey, do you want to do research? I'm like, yes, I do. But by the way, I'm 15. It's like, oh.
I've never met anyone like it.
He could hack anybody's phone in a matter of minutes. Who is that guy? Who can do that?
Talos is the most interesting man in the world.
He's one of my favorite people on the planet. Inventor.
Wicked smart.
The master of cutting corners.
If you had a dead body in your trunk, who would you call?
He would get arrested immediately in a lineup.
I stood in line to get his autograph.
You know, his mouth can barely keep up to his brain.
I don't actually know what Pablos does.
A hacker magician.
Man of the future. Future.
So first of all, where did that cool jacket come from?
So I got this, I went to Turkey with my folks.
Oh man.
And there is a place off the corner of the scroll was the column of Constantine. And it's a great store. My mom was like obsessed with it. I saw this jacket, I gotta go. And we went to see it. I picked out one for her and she loved it. She was gonna let it go. I'll get it. And by the way, this looks perfect. This is the color of my atomic emitter for my energy.
Good, even better.
Like, and it looks like Bruce Lee. So I'm gonna try it.
Vibes.
So
well, Bruce Lee has a long history in San Francisco.
That's true. As a teacher.
Yeah.
In many ways.
Hey, I think he was kind of a reluctant teacher. And now I need to go to Turkey, not for hair plugs. I know you grew up somewhere in Canada, was it?
That's right. I grew up in
rural Canada.
No, it was urban. You know, like Dartmouth, suburban Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, in the greater Halifax area, which
sounds
is like
rural to us. Not having been there, what are we talking about?
200,000 people on a peninsula, so everything's pretty walkable. Lots of universities. Lots of researchers. Lots of army bases, like there's all kinds of activity. Actually, it's really nice.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Industrious.
Yes.
I love that. What are the universities doing?
Film school. So I was. They do a lot of that.
Oh.
So one of the things that for a long time they're known for. Is and still are is batteries. So in like an extremely well-regarded professor also teaches the first year course at Dalhousie. His name's Jeff Don, and like he was I was a grade 7 dropout, dropped into university, and decided I wanted to do physics sort of halfway through, starting from computer science. And he kind of picked me out after midterms and was like, hey, do you want to do research? I'm like, yes, I do. But by the way, I'm 15. It's like, oh. And basically, but he
could get away with it?
I could get away with it.
Okay, all right.
Well, in general, it's funny because people always have expectations, but expectations are always subverted. Anyway, Jeff was an excellent battery an experimentalist and had a huge program. But I started out with a theorist, Jordan Kyriakides. He did quantum computation and a lot of highly correlated quantum systems.
Yeah.
And was hoping to get some help from me on programming that, and so that's how I got started.
Child labor, or because
child labor. It's really one of the key cornerstones of the Danielle Fong economic policy.
Yeah. Good. I love it. These kids these days aren't working hard enough.
They are working hard on some things, like
some bullshit.
We want to provide sort of ideal bullshit.
Okay. Yeah, better bullshit for kids. You can quote me on that. Okay. So you end up at the university, and then getting to work on research pretty early, pretty young compared to anyone else.
Yeah, and
batteries or quantum stuff.
It was on quantum stuff. So, but I was asked by Rutenberg if I thought about grad school, and I had always been really interested in energy, and particularly in nuclear fusion. I went to, and so I applied. He did his PhD at Princeton. I applied, I got into Princeton's plasma physics lab. And so this was awesome. You know, it was like one of the this massive. And now there's amazing progress in private fusion.
That's right.
But at the time, such a thing did not or was just very, very, very nascent.
Yeah.
And it was sort of the hangover from, well, we had built this in a sort of Soviet competitive context, and then just sort of like weren't investing in it that much anymore. And so all of the records, which inspired me to get into the field, were like when they ran the thing for the last time, because they were using deuterium.
Wow.
And tritium. And so it was like, oh shit. And so we were looking at this and like, how are we ever going to get enough money? And also, how is it ever going to be like cost competitive with coal for a source of heat? So I was always bothered by like, okay, you know, ultimately we're using this to generate, we're going to boil water. Like, is that the really best thing that you can be doing for all of this tech?
Yeah.
And I'm still very close friends with one of the grad students that I met there, Abe Fetterman. And we would joke around, like we would say, hey, you know, nuclear fusion is kind of not getting the best rap because we say it's sort of nuclear, but like, what if we extracted the energy with PV cells? So you got the plasma and you're extracting it. I'm like, that's funny.
Yeah.
Why not, actually? And that actually never left me, right?
Never left you.
So never left me, yeah. And so one of the other questions come up is this, okay, you know, why do we have to go through all this trouble? Make a fusion reactor when we have a fusion reactor in the sky, and it's like, well, it's the energy storage problem. Mm-hmm. And after I dropped out and kind of bumped around Silicon Valley for a while talking about, you know, different things that I could do, focusing on the energy storage problem was really considered to be key.
Yeah.
And as a result, I was like, well, what can we do with compressed air? And I had this idea that you could dramatically increase the efficiency of compressed air if you didn't throw away all the waste heat, if you could capture it and then recycle it back.
Yeah.
Yeah. With water spray, which...
Oh, that's interesting.
This was the key. So water has this really high heat capacity and it's much higher density. And if you had a very fine spray, it would have a lot of surface area.
Right.
Basically add the heat capacity to the air.
Turns out that's what's going on in the atmosphere.
Quite a lot of that.
Quite a lot of heat being stored in small water droplets.
It's primarily that.
Right.
Yeah.
What created this pattern of dropping out? I presume high school or junior high or whatever. But
I mean, yeah, junior high.
Totally
junior high sucked. Well, you know, there's kind of two stories. You know, we talk about. So the official story is basically, I didn't think that fusion was necessarily going to be the answer immediately.
Okay.
And maybe you can solve energy storage and go some other way. And also I wanted to do entrepreneurship as an alternative to the financial problem, because I saw my amazing professors who still had to scrape just not getting adequate funding.
Getting funded.
You know, but like, in addition to that, I was trans, and like they were not supportive at the time.
Okay.
I mean, also I should have come out to the faculty, who in retrospect, you know, I talked to them since, and they welcomed me. But at the time,
supportive, but you didn't know.
Administration was like, we're a conservative school. No one's ever.
This is
like 2025. Yeah.
Oh, 2020.
Or, sorry, 2005.
2005. Yeah. So different era.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So sort of, yeah. So I was just like, well, it's impossible to live here.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I'm going to try San Francisco.
Yeah, right. Okay. The fusion stuff, I get it, especially in that window of time, probably still looked like it was going to take too long, be too expensive, weren't going to make.
Well, and the other thing to say about it, and again, Abe and I would talk about this, and it was like, if you're going to do a fusion company to solve the techno-economic problem of energy, you need to build a reactor company that gets incredibly good at building the reactors.
Right.
And scaling those down the learning curve. And then you can tackle fusion, which is like the most challenging reaction that you can imagine, because it requires 100 million Kelvin. Like, but you know, this is skipping forward a bit. Like, this is a reactor company that we're working on.
Yeah.
But it does chemical reactions because they're easier to start off with.
Well, I don't want to get you on the record
Yeah.
weighing in on the current state of fusion, because I know
There's a bunch of things are in the air right now.
yeah, and
which are
I think
rumors.
it's really cool. And I believe that we need 1,000 silver bullets, and we've got to try all these things and figure out what works. So I'm excited about it in that sense. But we'll talk about that some other time.
Yeah.
I think the energy storage thing, I started to see, probably some analogous evolution in my thinking, got me to think of coal and oil and gas as storage.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's exactly right.
Came from the sun. It's being stored here for millions of years. And I think of uranium that way, as maybe it came from other stars, but it's storage. It's long-term storage, and it's up to us to learn how to use it. And I think that's a different way of thinking about these fuels. And I feel it's important to be responsible with like how we use them, because you only get to use them once most of the time. But not everything. I mean, if we get fusion working, then not. But I think storage is important to think of in a broader sense.
Yeah. So I looked at the chemical storage of energy as being a couple orders of magnitude more intense in terms of energy per given amount of weight.
Sure.
Versus batteries.
Yeah.
And like 70x. And even if it's less efficient, it's still like 30x is possible. So we were looking at it from like, what is the most valuable power possible? And it's like, well, whenever it has to carry itself. So we were thinking flying cars, drones, but also that there was a chicken and egg problem with synthetic fuels that we could solve.
Okay.
Because if you can have a flame of any kind, this is skipping a whole bunch ahead, but
sure.
But basically, if you could burn anything, then anybody that could convert what they had, be it biomass or hydrogen, solar, hydrogen, into fuel, they could have a market, and this would solve an ecosystem problem. But that also we can use all of the existing infrastructure for fuel. So, but it would have to be relatively flexible. So really relying on the energy content of the fuel rather than the specific qualities of it.
So I don't understand that part. So, and maybe we should rewind and just explain what you're trying to build, and then we can pick apart why it can work with all these fuels.
Right. So LightSail Energy was, one of the storied and great Cleantech 1.0 bets.
Okay.
Where we were like, everyone's going after batteries. We think that compressed air has a place to dramatically reduce the cost of energy storage at large scale and at like industrial scale.
Yeah.
Right. And using this water spray, that we can improve the efficiency of compression because you do less work to compress it, and then on expansion because you have more of the energy from the higher temperature and therefore higher pressure air on expansion. And we chose, instead of turbines, to use in reciprocating compressors because we thought that would be a much easier job, basically to fight with valves versus the water-laden aerodynamics.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, I get it.
Right. So, and additionally, when you're looking at how you're going to store the compressed air, we saw that because the cost of industrial carbon fiber had dropped so much that it had become economical to consider using carbon fiber, and then you have like 8 times the energy density for a given amount of weight versus steel tanks.
Wow.
And we ended up being half the cost of steel tanks.
Wow.
So this was like, we hired racing engineers and also people from the compressor world, and we hired people who made rocket engine boosters and new composites through that, and all kinds of different. and scientists who studied shadowgraphy to study the properties of spray till we figured out how to make all these nozzles.
Wow.
And we raised from first my co-founder who funded the initial work. We threw something together with our other co-founder, his former partners, Garage, and then we raised from Vinod Khosla, who funded the first 2 rounds and has always been with us. And then we in 2011, Peter Thiel was already saying, and this is after the financial crisis, and basically the initial wave of clean tech really was in a bad way. First because of the financial crisis, and the next because the loan guarantee program was basically shuttered under the Republicans when they took the Congress.
Yeah.
And a lot of factories that people were basically financed by part of these, partially public programs, suddenly the loan guarantee went away, and then many of those companies were shuttered, and then many of the funds which were heavily deployed were shuttered. And so people were like, and Peter Thiel was like, hardly anybody's talking about clean tech, it seems to be a disaster, and no one was raising after that, basically. And it was like, okay, well, that sucks. However, for us, we can kind of break the logjam if we can raise from Peter Thiel.
Yeah.
So I then engaged on a campaign which it didn't require much guile because it's a small community.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I happened to meet, and we talked with, we had pre-talked with like his partners at Founders Fund who were interested in, I was just like, I know you guys don't do this, but I'm interested in talking.
Yeah.
And then when I met him, he was like, oh, this is really cool. It's too bad that we don't do this. I'm like, well, it's good news. Like, I already talked with all your guys at Founders Fund, and they really like this. They just say, it's too bad, Peter. They're like, oh, okay. So he came in and led the round ultimately. Although there was sort of big momentum, and
Wow.
and Vinod was going to do it with Bill Gates anyway. So there was this big concern, and then after that, sort of the logjam broke for some time. And so for a while we were very well funded.
Yeah, okay.
And we did make amazing progress on this sort of massive challenge of making a 220 atmosphere compressor that could do all of these different pressure ratios and compress and expand and spray and a custom water pump and everything. And
What's the scale of storage you were going for?
we were trying to have, the same machine, you could run it in compression or expansion at higher levels, and we weren't. But the design points were about a quarter of a megawatt to start out, and then going up.
Okay.
So
Got it.
per cylinder.
And so basically you survived the
Initial.
the initial demolition of clean
That's
tech
right.
companies, and managed to thrive at a moment when probably none of them did, and then you and so then what happened? Just the next wave of
the really big problem. No, we were still able to. There's multiple rounds.
Okay, yeah,
so,
sure.
Yeah, so we had a really big blow in 2014 in the entire industry when the price of oil sank 6x because an enormous number of business cases, which are incredibly attractive to focus on, is, hey, we're saving you money because we're saving X amount of oil. And even when you talked about, all of the majors, anybody who was involved in this, who would have been spending money on this, they weren't really doing it.
Right. That's been really the kind of the history of, say, solar too. When oil price is up, solar gets funded. When it's down, it gets defunded, and and we couldn't break that logjam for decades, and we finally did. But it sounds like some analogous thing happened to you.
Yeah, well, it made it more difficult. It didn't make it impossible. We were still able to raise money from individual investors through, because we were pretty prominent. We were doing something really interesting. It was, way orthogonal bet.
Yeah.
Of course, at the same time, the price of batteries was plummeting.
I see.
At the very beginning of the belief.
Yeah.
It's a combination. In the West, it was really driven by Tesla, and then it was really China, and especially LFPs and so on. But also people would start giving credit to, well, they'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
Whereas so initially you're like, oh, we're competing with lithium-ion batteries, which are $1,000 a kilowatt or more.
Yeah.
But now Elon's saying, well, it's going to be $100 a kilowatt. Well, it's still not $100 a kilowatt. Maybe it is for him, but
for him.
Yeah, for him. Yeah.
And so
that made it more difficult. But the other, probably the worst. This is what counterintuitive. I wouldn't have thought about this. It's worth thinking about this.
Yeah.
After we raised money, particularly from and people would always report on it, from Bill Gates, who he funded the company.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bill. As one of the investors, right? People kind of imagined that it immediately came out of Bill's pocket.
Right.
And if I were to ask them for money, they would say, well, why isn't Bill funding it? And he was a significant investor, but something like
I see.
5-ish% of KV and 5% of the money, a little more than that, but it made it incredibly difficult to raise money from elsewhere.
Yeah.
And when he was getting things organized for Breakthrough Energy, it just took them time to get organized.
Yeah.
And after they announced it, there's like, oh, great, all of the billionaires are doing it. And unfortunately, this included the other source of money that I had, which was and previous to this, it's the oil companies and the majors, and then 2014 it crashed. And then it's like, oh, go to China. And then I'm like, this is the stock market is going to crash. It's way overblown. And then it did crash. And so 2015, so it's so we raised from individual billionaires. But then, I met with Jeff Bezos. He's like, this is a brilliant idea. Send me your memo. Okay, great. I'll write a memo. Jeff 6-page memo. I was like, okay, all right. Here's it's great. Is he reading it? Oh, let me nudge his investment. Oh, thanks for talking to me. We are doing our investment through Breakthrough, and I'm like, I got to talk to Vinod about it being log jammed on Breakthrough doing something.
Yeah.
Right.
I see.
And Vinod, a huge amount of respect for him, and was the last guy funding a lot of these things. I think we were not the only company that this was the exact same problem.
But basically what happened is all the people who wanted to do this kind of stuff decided it would be better to join the Breakthrough cabal.
Yeah.
And get into that.
And then in the meantime,
too long to materialize to be able to pick you up as a...
And which led to a 100% fatality rate for our cohort, it turned out.
Right, I see.
We're like, oh, so in the meantime, we have all this value, there's stuff that's going to take more money to materialize, the compressor stuff. But the tank stuff, there was still this surplus of CNG, natural gas.
Yeah.
And so we were like, hey, we can certify these tanks. They're 8 times the amount of natural gas. So for an over-the-road trailer, they're half the cost. Let's do this. We should be able to make profit manufacturing this right here. And they just, this is the one thing I'll disagree. Again, I get a lot of respect, but instead of manufacturing it ourselves, we were pushed to license. And I'm like, oh, you guys really just don't want to think about this, and you want to roll the bets. I'm like, fuck. And a lot of investors are like, hey, do you want to be a venture capitalist? Do you want to come? I wanted to hide my head under a rock and figure out, how am I going to solve the energy storage problem?
Right.
What the fuck?
Right.
I literally just got to the top here and everyone's just lost attention about it. How are we going to actually really solve the problem?
Yeah.
Right?
All the people who've been in Silicon Valley for a long time have some story like that where we just got fucked over by the
Yeah, I mean,
sway of the market and
everyone who is involved,
Yep.
tried hard.
yeah, I have no doubt.
Yeah.
I understand how that goes, and it's not totally clear to me what to do about that. I think it's probably not.
The stability of the structural form.
Yeah. One thing though is, I mean, I think I don't know if it's better now. Certainly venture has grown a lot in the last 20 years. It's much bigger overall. It has a wider variety of investors at every stage. I don't know if that helps. There's still a lot of lemmings, but yeah, it would be one of the important things to say, because so much collateral damage from startups that were kicking ass and still got shut down.
Yeah, well, a lot of it is spilled milk under the bridge, except people are learning the wrong lessons from this.
Right, yeah.
It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tuition been paid here. We still have the problems, all of the intensity of the problems and like the time frames we have to solve it and how important it is.
And how much
has
is
increased,
grown?
right?
How much is LNG?
Everything has increased. We've learned a whole pile about it, but we failed to think of the lesson because we can't really imagine the degree of the difficulty and how many different things have to be solved, and to sort of the great filter problem of getting it right. And then also maintaining a capital market for that. And so you find things are outcompeted by a consistent market that's being pushed by state intervention.
Yeah.
And you have to think pretty hard about how you're going to beat that. It's not that you can't, obviously, like Elon, it's like the lever is reusability. Therefore, we can do. So. People can do it, but like it's in general, there's a lot of, not only is there a lot of damage, but people tend to think every time they hear a good new idea, they're like, well, why hasn't that been done yet? Like, you must not think this. You can try to understand what people have done once, at a different technological period, under different conditions for different reasons. You can probably learn quite a lot about that.
Yeah, for sure.
But most great ideas aren't done.
Yep. That's right.
It's incredibly difficult to execute to ubiquity. So it means a lot more things are possible, really, but then you have to know the price, which is the difficulty of executing it.
Yeah, I think that there's a kind of miscalibration in Silicon Valley around that. I mean, everything is hard.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Everything's hard. Yeah.
And honestly, like, it's not totally clear to me that executing to ubiquity for you would have been harder than for Stripe or PayPal or fucking Airbnb or something. It's just that's what got the support all the way through, and so and the machinery to support at each stage didn't break for them. And they just got lucky or whatever. Well, they got the timing right.
Very long-term thinkers from the beginning.
Yeah,
no question. But they were all,
But they didn't end up with a catastrophic failure. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure they had trouble and struggles along the way, but nothing existential.
The funds that they raised were never really super existential to the proving out the next edge of the company, which. Yeah. To be clear, like, this is what you want.
Well, they can get revenue earlier, those kinds of companies.
In general, yes.
Yeah. But I think that's the job here, is to figure out how do we co-opt the aspects of the Silicon Valley operating system that worked, software, figure out which ones we can apply to doing harder, hardware and hard stuff, and make it happen faster before these, because if you take too long with anything, I
think that speed is really the critical thing.
Yeah,
speed is really the critical thing.
Okay, so cool. So LightSail was compress air to store energy, got derailed, and presumably you had to shut that whole company down, or what happened?
Yeah, I mean the IP for the tanks was acquired and not really aggressively put into practice. I wish they did.
Yeah.
Retroactively went back to the VCs that owned the IP for all the other stuff, and And then they let that expire. Like, man, guys, well, thanks for my tuition, but I really feel like we have a lot of energy problems to solve.